Tonight at 10, voters grill Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer in the latest TV election programme. Sir Keir was challenged on his tax plans and his previous support for Jeremy Corbyn, Mr Sunak on his record and his Rwanda plan.
Good evening from Grimsby. It was a sparky old watch here tonight. I'll bring you the best bits in the next few minutes.
Knives on the streets and a life of dealing drugs. We have a special report on the communities living with crime and those committing it.
Do you not want something better?
Yeah. Of course you do. I don't want to sell drugs all my life. I don't want that for myself, just how it is.
And I'm at the Science Museum where an £8 million prize has just been awarded for this device that tackles drug-resistant superbugs.
But she's going to have to run through the line here, and she does.
And Britain's Keely Hodgkinson wins the 800 metres gold in the European Championships in Rome.
On BBC London, how several hospitals are working together to keep vital medical services going in the wake of last week's cyber attack.
Good evening. The Conservative and Labour leaders have this evening faced tough questions from an audience in Grimsby in their latest election campaign grilling. In a Sky News election special, Sir Keir Starmer admitted that he knew Labour would lose the 2019 general election when he campaigned with Jeremy Corbyn as leader. He was also challenged on his spending plans and his proposal to levy VAT on private schools. Rishi Sunak faced accusations that he'd failed to meet pledges on the NHS and immigration, and also criticism of the Conservatives' record in government. Well, our political editor Chris Mason was watching. Let's go live to him in Grimsby. Chris.
Yes, good evening to you, Rita. Quite the day on the campaign trail today. The Defence Secretary on the defensive, Grant Shapps, fretting about what he called a super majority for Labour. Labour winning and winning big, and the Conservatives being crushed. What a thing for a senior cabinet minister to say 3 weeks away from polling day. And then there was tonight Rishi Sunak, Keir Starmer and presenter Beth Rigby. Politics on prime time. On your screen, it feels like pretty much every night this month. Tonight in Grimsby, Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, each facing an interview, each facing questions from the studio audience. First up, the Labour leader.
You said, I do think Jeremy Corbyn would make a great Prime Minister. Jeremy Corbyn, did you mean that?
I was certain that we would lose the 2019 election.
That wasn't my question.
I was certain that we would. I was certain that we would lose it. I did campaign for Labour, of course I did. I will openly say I campaigned for Labour. I wanted good colleagues to be returned into the Labour Party.
When you said it.
And I wanted a party that was capable of being changed so we could face the future again.
Did you not mean it when you said it?
I was certain that we would lose.
He promised Labour wouldn't put up income tax rates, national insurance or VAT, but was less clear on fuel duty and council tax. But Sir Keir claimed his approach to tax was different from his predecessors.
I accept that previous Labour leaders have sort of pulled the tax lever every single time and driven up spending. I want to grow our economy. The manifesto tomorrow will be a manifesto, a plan for wealth creation.
Keir Starmer faced awkward questions about the promises he made to become Labour leader and then got junked. He said he had to focus on the country now, not his party. And he was asked if he becomes Prime Minister in 3 weeks' time.
What do you fear the most?
Oh, the only real fear, I suppose, I have is for my family. I've got a boy who is just turning 16. He's 15 and 3/4. I've got a girl who's 13. These are really difficult ages for children. I don't fear the big decisions.
Okay.
In fact, I relish the chance to change our country.
This was a studio audience not easily pleased. There was a question on doctors' pay, on Labour's plan to tax private school fees, and then there was this.
Over the last year, I feel like you've formed into more of a politician than the person that I would have voted for to run the country. You seem more like a political robot. How are you How are you going to convince others like me to vote for you?
Well, the most... Look.
Next up, it was Rishi Sunak.
Your polling is now worse than in the dying days of the Liz Truss government. What's going so wrong?
Well, I've got to say, Beth, it hasn't been an easy 18 months in general. So what I've done, though, is just keep going to try and do my best for people.
And given we've had 3 Prime Ministers in under 2 years...
How do we know that if you won the general election, you'd still be Prime Minister in a year's time?
I can appreciate people's frustrations. Of course, we haven't got everything right. I don't think any government does, and I know it's been very difficult for many people.
He faced awkward questions on the promises he'd made and failed to keep. And William asked him about what he'd do for young people.
What we announced yesterday in the Manifesto a couple of days ago is going to make a big difference, because it's going to mean that it's much easier for young people to get on the housing ladder and buy their first home. So whether it's an amazing apprenticeship, whether it's national service, whether it's buying your own home, actually what you're seeing are bold ideas that will make a big difference and spread opportunity around.
But here was the standout question.
My name's Amy. I'm a former Conservative Party chair and a lifelong True Blue. But in this election, I find myself an undecided voter. Actions taken by this government actually make me feel ashamed.
More generally at this election, as you said, you're undecided. This election is about the future and the future that you want for our country. And I believe that the manifesto that we put out yesterday contains a very clear plan, a bold set of actions that will deliver a more secure future for you and everybody.
And before long, it was over.
Thank you so much for joining us here in Grimsby tonight. Thank you.
Scrutiny, interrogation for the men who want to lead the country. And there's plenty more to come. And I think, Rita, you know, if you hadn't paid any attention to the general election campaigning of the last 3 weeks, what we got tonight were the central dynamics of this campaign so far. So yes, scrutiny, plenty of scrutiny for Keir Starmer, but it is that bit easier as an opposition leader because you don't have a record in government to defend. And then we heard just there Amy in Leeds, in many senses personifying the essence of the challenge that Rishi Sunak faces in this contest. Former Conservative voters, in her case more than that, now not convinced, and not long for Rishi Sunak to try and win them around. One other curious story to bring you an update on tonight. A senior aide to Rishi Sunak has admitted that the Gambling Commission are making inquiries after The Guardian reported that he placed a bet on the likelihood of a general election in July just a couple of days before the general election was called. The man in question is called Craig Williams, and on social media tonight he has said, "I put a flutter on the general election a few weeks ago. This has resulted," he said, "in some routine inquiries." That's a reference to the Gambling Commission. "I will fully cooperate."
Chris, thank you very much. Chris Mason there. And you can hear more analysis of how the leaders fared on Newsnight a little later. Here's Victoria.
So yes, with the two contenders for PM taking the heat in Grimsby tonight, we will have post-match analysis with the Home Secretary James Cleverly and the Shadow Cabinet Office Minister Jonathan Ashworth. We've got a top political panel and we'll speak to the Greens too on the day of their manifesto launch. All that live. Newsnight, BBC Two, BBC News, iPlayer. See you in about 20 minutes.
Victoria, thank you. Now, we've been taking a closer look at one of the big issues of this election campaign, crime. For some communities, it's a constant worry. And we've heard through the BBC's Your Voice, Your Vote that you want politicians to come up with solutions. In Cleveland, the police force recorded the highest overall crime rate in England and Wales last year. They say they are working with people and that crime is now falling. But what does it feel like for communities living under frequent threat? Our UK editor Ed Thomas has been to Middlesbrough to find out.
It's brutal around here. It's brutal.
Crime.
You just have to be prepared, don't you? If someone's going to stab you, you have to stab them.
Victims.
We feel degraded, like we're non-existent.
They're dragged in through here.
And justice denied.
Next time it happens, do I even ring the police? Do I just leave it? I get up and I think, why are we bothering?
This is the Netherfields estate in Middlesbrough.
What's going on? BBC News, looking at the big issues of this election, and one of them's crime. What's it like here?
Bad.
Tony's born and bred here, and he's had enough.
A couple of windows that were getting smashed, and then it just escalated from there to there to there to there.
His biggest issue
I can show you something wrong there.
Is the damage being done?
What's happened there?
Kids were hanging out to fight the fence.
Simple as that?
Yeah, because they're bored.
As he showed us round, these teenagers wanted to talk.
What is it like living here as a kid?
You get copper chases all the time, Mum.
Are you vaping?
Yeah.
Police have imposed dispersal orders, arrested children as young as 12, and cameras have been put up across the estate.
CCTV there. Place is covered. It's being watched.
You get the penthouse.
Tony showed us home after home
That's been boarded up for God knows how long.
with smashed out windows.
And that's why this is your #1 issue, this election, crime.
Yeah, yeah. And I think everyone in Middlesbrough will agree with that as well.
And just round the corner,
I want him to come out the house, me.
we find Claire.
Told the council not to fix the windows because they just...
She's vulnerable and says she's being targeted.
How many times have you had your windows put through?
Been going on for a year, at least once a month. One day we had every single window in the house boarded up.
Living next door to this is Robbie.
So you've been targeted as well?
No, well, when they did their house, something popped up, like flew over in it, man.
He works full-time, raising a young family.
I'm a builder, so they took them out of my garden and run through their windows.
You've worked hard for this. You've grafted for all this.
Grafted, I know. Worked hard for it, mate.
You phoned the police. What happens?
Nothing. Not a thing.
You being serious?
Yeah. Give us a crime number to give to the landlord so he can claim his insurance.
For the families opposite,
I'd love to go on you.
That's why we're here.
all this has changed how they live.
As soon as I'm out of this area, I'm a different person. As soon as I get the roundabout coming in, I get anxiety. She's the same. We're all the same. All of us.
It's like you feel as though you can't step over your doorstep sometimes. She used to come in, oh my God, somebody's been stabbed. Mum, the police have just pulled me.
Does it feel like politics is the answer to the problems on Netherfield?
It's the drugs. People need to knock down on the drugs.
2 miles away is Kings Road, North Ormsby. We were told some shops are robbed here every day. One has started publicly naming and shaming people they accuse of stealing. Others say theft,
shoplifting,
is now normal.
Right. Round here, horrific.
5 went in there with balaclavas on and pinched chocolate.
Today?
Today. This morning, about dinner time.
And it was all captured on CCTV. The men walk down the road, stop, cover their faces. Seconds later, they're gone, with chocolate bars.
It's scary them coming in and stuff because I thought obviously they were going to take the money.
Facing them was Ellie.
What was it like witnessing what you witnessed today?
It's just the usual for us though. It's like it happens every day and stuff, so...
Can you believe you're saying that?
I know. No.
Close by is Legends Bar,
Pulled the fruit machine over.
and Sarah is desperate.
£4,500 machine. Over the last 2.5 years, I've been targeted 5 times now. They've came through the ceiling, they've came through the back shutter. Got that bad once. They even came in and pinched my KP, roasted nuts. You can't keep going on like this.
Are you aware of any of the criminals being prosecuted, found guilty? in court?
Nobody's been prosecuted, nobody.
North Ormsby is one of the most deprived wards in the whole of Middlesbrough.
Another window smashed?
94 out of every 100 crimes here last year went unsolved.
Welcome to Beirut.
As we walk around,
So what's happening here then?
Police were outside the door.
an example of modern demands on our police.
Do you enjoy policing around here?
It's a job different every day, innit?
Busy?
Not a crime, but a welfare check on Kimberley.
Good confidence in the police, to be fair, because they help with the mental health. I'm ADHD, bipolar, and emotional and disability disorder, so... Yeah, they're really nice, and they'll sit with you and they'll make you feel good.
Cleveland Police is dealing with some of the highest rates of violence in England and Wales.
Where were you stabbed?
Twice, sir. 3 arms down, one on my back. Look at me alive.
People here told us again and again that drug dealing was the reason why so many were living in misery.
Right. Let's have a look. Stones, man.
That's crap.
Money, that, innit?
How much could you sell of that in a week?
Hundreds.
Crack cocaine on the streets being sold by teenagers.
How old were you lot when you started dealing drugs?
16, man.
14. Yeah, I was about 14.
What are the things you've witnessed here?
Shootings. People stabbing each other with smack needles.
You've seen a shooting?
Yeah.
And in daylight, they showed us this.
So what about that, man?
That is quite big.
Yeah, it's hard round here, man. It's rough.
Are you prepared to use that?
Of course, man. You have to, because if you don't stab them, they're going to stab you, aren't they?
But that is all because, I presume, this is crack and heroin.
Yeah. White and brown. No one's going to change it. The bobbies can't change it.
How many houses are smashed up here?
The reasons are the water on the windows.
Politicians are saying they're going to sort out crime. And what they mean by that is sorting out people who are dealing drugs.
What they're going to do? Sort me out. Come sort me out.
So what would you want to say to the politicians?
Politicians. Catch us if you can.
Does this general election mean anything to you guys?
No, I don't even know what it is. What's going to change?
You not want something better?
Yeah.
Of course we do. We don't want to sell drugs. I don't want to sell drugs all my life. I don't want that for myself, just how it is.
And this is the challenge for the next government. Solving more crimes, making all streets safer.
Good lad.
Brother.
For people like Tony, it's an urgent crisis.
We feel degraded, like we're non-existent.
Because you're seeing all that crime. And
Yeah, we see it a lot. Whoever wins the next election, I think can step up to the mark.
Ed Thomas, BBC News, Middlesbrough.
Senior UK correspondent Seema Katecha is with me. That's a very sobering snapshot, Seema, of one area. What's the overall picture and what are politicians proposing?
Well, overall, Rita, the crime rate is on a downward spiral, but some offences have increased. For example, there's been a 37% increase in shoplifting in England and Wales. As for what the parties are saying, well, the Tories say they'll put 8,000 officers in the heart of communities across England and Wales over the next 3 years. They say they'll introduce tougher new sentences for certain offenders and build 4 new prisons. Labour hasn't released its manifesto yet, but it's already said it plans to have 13,000 more constables and police and community support officers. It says it will fast-track certain cases through the courts and create thousands of more prison places. But saying something and making it happen are two different things, aren't they, Rita? We know the courts are clogged with tens of thousands of cases in its backlog, and according to the Criminal Bar Association, some barristers are opting out of race cases because of pay and stress. And as for prisons, well, we understand that they're at the cusp of full capacity, while policing has been hit by various scandals, which inevitably affects recruitment, retention and morale.
OK, thank you. Seema Katecha there. The UK economy failed to grow in April after particularly wet weather put off shoppers and slowed down construction. It is still recovering more broadly from last year's recession, but that follows more than a decade of disappointing growth and highlights the challenge facing whoever wins the election. Here's our chief economics correspondent, Darshini David.
The wettest April in 12 years put the boot in many plans, not least trips to the beach.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
So tell me about this place. In Margate, Laurie installs tooth gems, which have soared in popularity. Businesses like hers aim to make this town, where incomes are below average, a year-round destination. But there's challenges.
The rain does put people off, but we do get the people who come out and they go, oh, never mind, we'll just find something to do. The train strikes, for sure, have been a bit of a problem for us because a lot of the town itself is reliant on tourism.
After rebounding at the start of the year, things stalled. Zero growth as the washout hit retail, restaurants and construction. Areas such as computer programming and publishing did better, and things should improve over the summer. But there's a bigger challenge. This line is how growth, income per person, performed in the years ahead of the 2008 financial crisis. Now, the dotted line is where it could be if it had continued on that path. But actual growth since 2008, this line has been a fraction of that, reflecting many factors, including the pandemic and global inflation crisis. And that gap suggests that after inflation, we could be £10,900 per person worse off than we might have been. So, how to repair that? Experts say by investing more. Skills, technology and buildings, for example, to boost efficiency or productivity, an area where we've fallen behind many international peers. And we may all feel the benefits, including in Margate, where it's tough for coffee shop owner Mark.
We get some people, like especially in the winter, they come in there, have one coffee and sit here all day, out there all day, and it's the way of life at the moment. People can't afford to buy things.
All politicians are tempted to make a splash with get-rich-quick promises, but it's the finer, perhaps less glamorous issues they'll have to tackle if we're to reap the rewards. Darshini David, BBC News.
The Green Party has launched its manifesto or list of election pledges, including plans to boost health and social care spending by £50 billion a year. To help fund this, the party says it would raise national insurance and wealth taxes on high earners. Our political correspondent Helen Catt reports now from Hove.
The
The Green Party of England and Wales is optimistic about this election. Its policy platform, launched at a cricket ground this morning, is big on ambition. And it's deliberately big on spending too.
Because here it is, a plan that would see billions go into the country's collective pocket to pay for the future of our public services.
Among the pledges,
an investment of £50 billion, more than any other party, in health and social care.
£30 billion in insulating homes up and down the country.
We're the ones that will stop the water companies continuing to profit.
Are you really being honest that you can definitely raise all of this to do everything in this manifesto?
Yes, we do have some ambitious spending commitments, and the Greens are the only party being honest that that's the level of investment needed to get the kind of public services we need in this country. And we're not shy about talking about the changes to the tax system.
That includes people with more than £10 million in assets paying a wealth tax of 1%, 2% for over £1 billion. More modest earners would have to pay more too.
Anyone earning under 50,000 would not be affected by our tax changes. We are proposing that for national insurance, the percentage of people's salary that they pay on national insurance should be the same regardless of their income. So someone on 55,000 would pay £5 more a week. And if we're going to have
65,000, that goes up to
£17 a week.
To pay, that is quite a hike.
The levels of tax that the Green Party is proposing would take us a bit closer to what's normal by other European standards.
This manifesto isn't all about public money. The Greens are also pushing for rent controls, and they would dismantle the UK's nuclear weapons.
And they're being pretty upfront that they are not expecting to form a government. So this manifesto contains policies that are not likely to be enacted, but do allow the Greens to draw differences.
They're hoping voters will buy into their plans to get to their target of 4 MPs. Helen Catt, BBC News, Hove.
The Liberal Democrats have outlined details to replace the water industry watchdog Ofwat with what they call a tough new regulator for England and Wales if they're elected. On an outdoor visit to an adventure centre in Warwickshire, the party leader, Sir Ed Davey, said the Clean Water Authority would be given new powers to reform the industry. Scotland's First Minister and SNP leader John Swinney has defended the Scottish Government's record on increasing taxes on higher earners. Speaking to Nick Robinson for the BBC's Panorama interviews, he said the policy helped fund public services and brought wider benefits.
For people who are teachers or police officers, the difference in tax is very limited, but of course there are other benefits, like the fact that people in Scotland don't pay for university tuition, or that they don't pay for prescriptions, or that they have generally a council tax payment that's about £500, £600 lower than if they were living in England.
Nick Robinson also interviewed Plaid Cymru's Reen ap Iorwerth about how his party would handle the economy. Plaid's leader said he wanted to have an honest debate about tax.
We have a number of proposals for bringing in more of a tax take. For example, making sure that those oil and gas companies pay more of a windfall tax, that the corporates pay more, that those who have the huge amounts of wealth are targeted through a wealth tax. So through a fair taxation system.
And the Social Democratic Party has published its election manifesto, saying it wants to address what it calls the epidemic of family breakdown. It's proposing tax relief for families raising children and said that married couples should have priority for council houses.
If you're a couple raising children, you won't pay any tax for the first £25,000. And that would make a massive difference to household budgets and take some of the pressure off parents raising children.
Now, the ship on which the explorer Ernest Shackleton made his final voyage has been found on the seafloor off the coast of Newfoundland in Canada. Shackleton had a fatal heart attack on board the Quest in 1922 on his way to the Antarctic. The ship remained in service for another 40 years before finally sinking in 1962, as Rebecca Morell reports.
Setting sail for Sir Ernest Shackleton's final expedition. The ship, called Quest, leaving London for Antarctica. But Shackleton never made it. He died of a heart attack aged 47, while the ship was in the harbour at South Georgia. Quest continued in service until it sank in 1962. Now an expedition has been searching the Labrador Sea off Canada where the vessel was lost. They used sonar to locate it.
That's it. I think we got it. Are you serious? Well, that's what I thought.
The image shows Quest lying almost intact, 390 metres down.
This matches exactly the characteristics, the size, the fact that we can see a mast. It's very clear that it's Quest.
We have some wonderful news. We have located Quest.
The team contact Alexandra Shackleton, Sir Ernest Shackleton's granddaughter.
Well, I suppose it's the final discovery of the Shackleton story. As you know, it ended when he was only 47 and the ship went on, which is why this expedition came into being. It's squaring the circle.
On board Quest, Shackleton wrote in his diary the night before he died.
4th of January 1922. It's a strange and curious place. A wonderful evening. In the darkening twilight, I saw a lone star hover, gem-like above the bay.
Rebecca Morell, BBC News.
For more than a decade, hundreds of teams have competed to win a prize worth £8 million on how to deal with what's called antimicrobial resistance. That's when bacteria and viruses no longer respond to medicines. Competitors for the Longitude Prize have been trying to develop a diagnostic test which quickly and accurately identifies bacterial infections in the hope that it ends the overprescription of antibiotics. Well, James Gallagher is at the Science Museum for us with news of a winner. James.
This is a huge prize. If you think about it in financial terms, it's like winning 10 Nobels. And it was created to tackle one of the greatest challenges of our time, drug-resistant superbugs. Collectively, they now kill more than 1 million people around the world each year. And this piece of kit was designed to help challenge it. So do you want to have a look? So it's for urinary tract infections. So it does take a urine sample and it goes in here. And then when it gets tipped up, it helps to trap the bacteria in place. And this device also contains 5 different antibiotics. Then it goes into another machine. So if we just pop it in over here, now what happens inside this is it's going to watch as the bacteria grow or not. Because in 15 minutes time, it will confirm whether or not this is a bacterial infection. And in 45 minutes time, it will tell doctors the best drug to use. Now, if you want that information at the moment, you'd have to send a sample to a clinical laboratory, and it could take up to 3 days to get that kind of information. So the dream of this technology is it's the future of healthcare that gets the right drug to the right patient at the right time and drives down the use of antibiotics.
James, thank you. James Gallagher there. There were several British athletes chasing gold in the European Championships in Rome tonight, but the greatest hope was the 800-metre runner Keely Hodgkinson. And with the Paris Olympics just over a month away, she didn't disappoint. Natalie Perks reports.
It's Keely Hodgkinson of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the world leader.
The venue was a fitting one, the Stadio Olimpico, for the woman with Olympic-sized hopes on her shoulders. After world and Olympic silvers, the European title was once again on Keely Hodgkinson's radar.
Pushing to defend a title, but she's going to have to run through the line here, and she does.
And even fighting illness, she grabbed gold at a canter. So often the bridesmaid, she's determined to replicate this winning feeling.
I'm manifesting a golden year, so we'll just see how it goes, but yeah, I'm ready to put everything on the line.
And it wasn't just Hodgkinson who delivered for Britain on a final night with no shortage of drama.
And the fastest qualifiers in lane number 6.
The 2 fastest women in British history helped deliver relay gold in the 4x100 metres. And as the curtain came down, dreams turned to Paris. And Britain hoped to reign supreme. Natalie Perks, BBC News, Rome.
England midfielder Adam Wharton says it's a dream come true to be part of the squad at this summer's Euros. The 20-year-old was playing for Blackburn Rovers in the Championship 5 months ago, but could now make his competitive debut at the tournament. From Germany, here's our sports editor, Dan Rowan.
England are settling into their surroundings here in eastern Germany, but for almost half of a new-look squad, this is their first experience of a major tournament. Among them, surprise selection Adam Wharton. The Crystal Palace midfielder only made his Premier League debut in February. Today he explained what it was like to have had such a meteoric rise.
It's just a dream come true. I think every kid who grows up playing football wants to play in the Premier League, play for the country. It's all been very fast, but I wouldn't want it any other way.
England's campaign kicks off against Serbia on Sunday before further matches against Denmark and Slovenia in a group the three Lions will be expected to top. Gareth Southgate's side are many people's favourites here in Germany, but with the manager admitting that this is almost certainly going to be his last tournament in charge if England fail to win, for him there is a growing sense that this could be now or never. Southgate's transformed England's fortunes since arriving 8 years ago. His side ending an era of underachievement by reaching the latter stages of 3 successive tournaments. But the pressure is now on to end their long wait for silverware. Do you sense his 4th major tournament in charge will be his last?
It's Berlin or bust for Southgate. He has to win. He has to get England over the line. You look at the quality of these players. Any other country would have dispensed with the manager, and particularly with this generation of players. But he deserves huge credit for the progression that England have made and also the cultural changes that he's made.
With Harry Maguire already ruled out of the squad through injury, fellow centre-half John Stones missed training today with an illness, adding to England's fitness concerns in defence. The sense that Southgate will have to draw on all his experience if he's to finally guide his team to glory. Dan Rowan, BBC News, Blankenheim.
Time for a look at the weather now with Stav Daniels. Hi, Stav.
Hi there, Rita. Thank you very much. Good evening to you. Well, it's a fine end to the day across many areas, but the temperatures have been falling like a stone out there. It's going to be another chilly one. That takes us into a chilly morning tomorrow, but then big changes as we've got low pressure sweeping in. That's going to bring rain, breeze, but also milder air up from the south. But before that rain reaches us, the sky's clear. It's going to turn chilly, light winds, a few mist patches developing. And like last night, out of towns and cities, these are the town city values, they could be down to 2 or 3 degrees in some rural spots. So yes, another chilly one. However, changes tomorrow. We lose that blue hue, that Arctic air, which has been around us for quite a few days, and replace it with something milder, but that comes at a price, because a frontal system will be working its way and bringing outbreaks of rain, and that'll take us into Friday and the weekend. A milder air mass, warmer nights, but with sunshine and showers. We start Thursday off chilly, bright, some good sunshine around, but the clouds will thicken. The sunshine will become hazier. Rain will push into western areas, some of it heavy across the west, lighter and patchier further east. Staying dry for northeast Scotland and parts of eastern England. And despite the lack of sunshine, up to 18 degrees. So already we're in that warmer air mass. As we head into Friday, it's going to be an unsettled one with low pressure slap bang on top of it. So Friday starts mild. It's going to be a very mild night Thursday night, but sunshine and showers. Some of these showers will be heavy and thundery in places. Some decent sunny spells in between though. And with that slightly warmer air mass, it could be between 17 and 20 degrees. It will feel noticeably warmer. Heavier rain though for northern Scotland and the northern Isles. And as we move through the weekend, we hold on to this area of low pressure. It doesn't look as bad as it looks here on the map, but there will be some really decent spells of sunshine in between, particularly on Sunday across southern areas. It could be dry and warm. Temperatures again in the warmest spots up to around 20 degrees. As we head into next week though, low pressure will still be close by, so we'll see a mixture of weather, but stay tuned for all the details. Take care. Rita.
Thank you very much, Stav. And that is tonight's BBC News at 10. Now on BBC One, it's time to join our colleagues for the news where you are. Good night.